Hey guys, it's Brianna, and today we are talking about how to do split embroidery for a 4x4 hoop. This is in Embroidery. You can do this completely free. You don't have to pay for any version in order to do this. First, I like to see if it will fit. Obviously, I already know it's not going to, but this is the process that I do. I go to the text box and I type in the name that I want to use. For this one, I'm using Margaret, and if I used this block font, it would fit, but I'm going to use my favorite font, which is called Blue Skies. As you can see, it doesn't fit, but before I make that assumption, I like to line it up with a line and then move over the letters, otherwise it just looks really funky. Since it still doesn't fit, and we know this by looking at the bottom where it says the hoop size, it is in red where it says it's 4 15/16 of an inch. So this has to be split into two separate files in order for our machine to embroider it. So I'm going to copy this text twice and delete some of the letters so that it can fit on one hoop, and then I will have to rehoop it in order to do the second part. The original name can now be deleted because that was just to get the dimensions so you know where to place it onto your fabric. Now you'll have the two parts. Delete the last part and then save the file as the name and then 1. So for mine it'll be Margaret 1. Then press Command Z to bring back the last file that you deleted. Delete the first part that you already saved and save this one as Margaret 2. Go to wherever you saved your files, move them onto a geek stick, and head over to your embroidery machine. Instead of wasting a piece of fabric, I'm just going to do this tutorial with a piece of cutaway stabilizer. Usually you will have your fabric on top of your stabilizer, but for this tutorial, I'm just going to use the stabilizer itself to embroider on. I take 2 sewing pins and a tape measure and measure out the measurements from Embroidery, so it was about 5 inches. You will have to take out that second pin more than likely, but this is just to tell you, okay, where do I need it to start and where do I want it to finish. You can also use a water-soluble marker so you don't have to worry about the pins coming out. All embroidery hoops are going to have these curves, and the curves are going to be areas in which the machine is not going to embroider. Line up the first pin at the straight point of the hoop in order to reach that maximum area that will be embroidered. Now I'm going to go to this little toggle at the bottom. That's where your files are on your geek stick, and I'm going to scroll all the way down because I have multiple things on this geek stick to the first part for Margaret and place the embroidery hoop in. Select rotate to rotate the design since that's how I laid out my fabric. Then select end edit. I like to press this pencil tool to line it up, so I'm just lining it up with the edge of the pin, and now it's time to embroider. So I'm just putting down the pressure foot, taking out the pen, and starting up the machine. Whenever you remove the hoop, make sure to press this little latch and it'll release it rather than just pulling it straight out. Then you're going to damage your machine. Once the first part is done, unscrew the hoop and gently take it out, and you're just going to try to pivot it to the side. Remember what I said about the curves though, so you want to make sure that you have it far enough away from those curves to where it's going to finish out the design. Next, take a tape measure and make sure that it is lined up with the bottom and that you didn't pivot it too much. It's not slanted or anything. Tighten the hoop back up and place it back on our machine. For the second part, I'm doing the same thing, going and looking for it on the geek stick, selecting it, rotating it, moving it down. The first time, it had been a while since I had embroidered, I'll be honest, because we just recently moved and I don't have space for it in our new place yet. So, first time I did line it up wrong, I'll admit it. I lined it up with the curve of this G, which was incorrect. It's not horrible, but it could be a lot better. You can see that it's too far down and not close enough to the G to where it looks connected. You can tell it's in two separate parts, which is why I like to watch my embroidery, because mistakes like this do happen. I'm going to show you my method for fixing mistakes like this. Use a seam ripper, some scissors, and my secret weapon is some tweezers to get out all the stitches. Slow and steady wins the race, especially in cases of embroidery, because if you're doing this on a material that you don't have another blank for, you don't want to mess it up, especially if you have like an expensive sweater that you're embroidering someone's name on or something like that. Of course, it will be more time effective to go and buy a new one, but luckily this is just one letter, so it's not that bad. Just take it a little bit at a time, and if you have to take a break and come back to it, so be it. Don't pull on the fabric, don't force it out, don't get just angry at it. This method is very basic. I'm just taking the seam ripper, ripping underneath those stitches, and then taking my tweezers and lightly pulling out the stitches that I've already cut with the seam ripper, and then taking my scissors to cut off the excess just so I can see where I'm working a little bit better. Repeat these 3 tools over and over until you have your work back to the way that it was before it got messed up. Lots of patience. Once you're back to where you started, place it back into the hoop, and this time we are going to line it up with the bottom of the letters. Right in between the R and the G is the sweet spot for lining it up. You just want to make sure that your material is in there straight. So once again, take the tape measure, measure from the bottom, make sure that it's not slanted or anything like that. Again, I'm using the little pen tool, whatever you want to call it. It's probably really symbolizing the needle, let's be honest. Moving it down to the corner of the work and then moving it over to where it needs to start once I see that it is straight on with the curve in between the R and the G, so I know it's lined up with the bottom. Move it over so that it is almost touching the G. The key is to line it up with the corner, and then you want to make sure that it's touching your ending work. I hope this helped you guys with lining up your works, and if you have any more questions, of course leave them down below and I will try to explain it better. Or if you want to see me try something else, let me know. I believe next I had a request for multi-position hooping. It is so much better than this method, but you do have to pay for the software for it, so stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!